Hello and welcome to the Feeling Good podcast. I am your host, Fabrice Nye, and joining me here in the Murrieta studios is Dr. David Burns. Hi, David.
Hi, Fabrice.
Dr. David Burns has been a pioneer in the development of cognitive therapy, and he is the creator of the new team therapy. He is the author of Feeling Good, which has sold over 5 million copies in the United States and has been translated into over 20 languages. He is an emeritus adjunct clinical professor of psychiatry at the Stanford University School of Medicine. This is episode 32, and today we're going to reveal the answer to what positive things Mark's symptoms were saying about him.
Yes, and I hope all of our listeners have quite a few aha moments.
I'm sure they did a great job on this.
As well as to notice Mark's tremendous warmth as a human being. What a beautiful...
I really like Mark. Mark is quite a darling. Sorry, Mark. All right, so let's listen to that segment.
One thing that I can think about that is that I care about this not happening again to another child of mine or another relationship of mine.
We'll put that down here is number one. The guilt and shame show that I care deeply and would like to be sure that I have more deeper and more loving relationships with my other children, something like that.
I almost heard two things in there. Tell me if this sounds right, Mark. That one thing is that it shows how much you care about having loving relationships, like how much you value loving relationships. Mm-hmm. And the other thing is almost that it motivates you to work really hard to have loving and connected relationships in other places in your life, right?
Correct.
So those are two like real positive values of feeling guilty and ashamed.
Yeah, so number one would be...
I care deeply.
Deeply about loving relationships.
And then I'm motivated.
Mm-hmm. I'm motivated to work hard, work my ass off, really, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
To develop loving relationships and learn the skills for developing loving relationships, including the skills that you're showing here today. And you can just number one and number two. We'll see how many we get.
Okay.
Now, are those true and real?
And, I think they are. Yes.
Are they important?
I think they're very important. Yeah.
Okay. So what? Let's. We're on a little bit of a roll now.
Can you think of any other advantages of your feelings of sadness or anxiety or guilt, or like we just did, anything else that they say about you that's really positive or beneficial? I'm not sure. These feelings, of course, weigh on me and interrupt my happiness and everything in my life. I guess the same two things that it may say is that I care and also keeps me motivated in future relationships. Yeah.
Well, let me ask you another question here, just to get some more dimensions, because these two are just the tip of an iceberg, really. There's a tremendous amount more. For example, when you feel guilty and you kind of criticize yourself and beat up on yourself, would you say that you're being accountable or that you're blaming others?
I'm being accountable. Yes.
Is that a good thing?
That is very good.
So that would be not number three. I'm being accountable because we see a world in chaos right now because everyone's blaming someone else and trying to get revenge on someone else rather than looking at their own role. And you see that in broken marriages, you see that in international politics as well, and you're saying the buck stops here. If I'm not as close to my son as I would like to be, then I'm going to look at my own role, and that's why what Jill said so beautifully during the empathy phase of the session was ask about your son, and suddenly for the first time say, well, maybe he has trouble too. That it didn't even occur to you to look at anything other than your own role. Mm-hmm. And also, I'm wondering, in addition to be accountable, I don't want to do all the talking here, but would you say that you do, in fact, have many flaws, not only the flaws in communication and intimacy, but many flaws in your life?
Quite a few more, yes.
Yeah, and so would you say you're being honest about the fact that you have flaws?
Yes.
Is that a good thing?
Yes.
Well, let's put that down number 4.
If I could, I'd suggest, Mark, it's not just honest, but like humble. I mean, isn't there a sense of humility about you? That you're really taking a look at your role in the problem and taking responsibility and kind of really openly, authentically saying, I'm struggling here. Things aren't as I'd like them to be, and it's my fault.
Yes, I do believe that we can say that I'm a humble person, yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and is that, I know that you're very spiritually oriented and philosophically oriented, and would you say that humility is a spiritual quality?
I think so. It's part of trying to suppress the ego.
Yeah, so could we add spirituality are shown by these negative thoughts and feelings. Now, you had mentioned one earlier that you have a lot of self-critical thoughts, mm-hmm. and what does all this self-criticism show about you that's really awesome and positive?
I call it being realistic.
Well, we've got honest about flaws. Already, what
about? I think I know where you're going, David. Yeah. How about, Mark? When you said before, well, I don't know if I'm the most connected. There might be others that would be like at the top echelon of connection. That shows.
Yeah, generally, Jill and I only work with the more highly connected individuals, but we're lowering ourselves.
We only
today.
Like the top 5% of connected people. So, what does that show about you?
That I value. That the skill or the aptitude of being connected.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the one I was going for, because I think we have that one, is that it shows that you have really high standards for the kinds of relationships that you have,
yes,
and the level of
and in your life too.
Right?
That's
have
correct.
You had high standards? Are you a good physician? Are you a top-notch?
That is true. Yes, I care about high standards.
We're forcing it on you, Mark.
Yes.
Number 7, high.
It's hard when you're humble to say that you have high standards. Right. I think
high standards, and have your high standards. Well, I guess motivated you, but have they also motivated you to achieve a great deal?
Yes.
And have you learned the 5 secrets of effective communication? Correct. Use them in your life.
Correct.
So can we just say productivity and achievement? Even though the achievement isn't, all that I hope for, but there's been tremendous growth, right?
Correct. That's correct.
Because of these high standards.
Yes. Yes, it has helped me along.
What are some more things? Let me just grab your daily mood log here. You're very sad and unhappy, and you said, "What could there be in that?" What are some really beautiful things about your feeling sad and unhappy? What does that show about you that's really remarkable and really pretty fantastic?
It's hard to come up with something good about being sad.
Oh, sadness is actually, without distorted thoughts behind it, is probably the highest experience a human being can have. Tears. Sadness can be a form of celebration if you just get rid of the distortions in the thoughts. What are you see? You're very sad about your relationship with your son, the loneliness that you feel, the loneliness that he feels.
Yes.
What about that is tremendously beautiful? or even spiritual?
Probably again, my willing to make him happy.
Well, is that a good thing, that you have a desire
so,
to make your son happy? Add that number 9.
I was thinking, even just at the most simple level, your sadness is kind of like a testament to your love of your son.
That's what I'm at. Yeah, your sadness is your love for your son.
Very true. That's very true.
And you see, when you press the magic button, you won't be sad anymore. You'll say, "Oh, I don't have a close relationship with my son. I'm just as happy as can be." Do you see what I mean?
Yep. Yeah. No, I wouldn't want to give up that.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe the problem isn't that you're sad, but that the rest of the world isn't. You see,
the rest of the world is not sad?
Yeah, maybe that's the problem. Not that maybe the problem isn't that you are sad, but that other people.
Well, that actually resonates with me. Is that if I see a father in broken relationship with his children, and they're just happy as a lark, I kind of I feel the difference.
Yeah, right, right, right.
I congratulate myself for being sad.
Yes,
right.
Exactly. Yeah. I love that.
Right. It almost shows that you're a good dad, or maybe it does.
I want to be a good dad.
Yeah, yes, that's right. Yes,
right.
Yeah,
the desire to be a good father because of that feeling of sadness at the disconnect.
That's beautiful. All of that is really resonating with me, and the loneliness. The same thing. It shows your love.
Yeah. Yep. I wish I had the kind of relationship that I always had in my mind.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And what is, you feel 80% defeated? That's your most powerful feeling. Yes. What does that show about you that's truly wonderful?
That I'm just no good in that department.
Yeah.
I don't know what good it tells. It can tell about me.
Well, let me ask you this question. Here's two guys who have a bad relationship with their son, and one of them feels 80% frustrated and the other one feels happy and euphoric. What's the difference?
I think it means one who's frustrated also cares.
Yes, so can you add that? The frustration, again, shows how much I care and how hard I'm willing to work to try to correct this problem. Your frustration is a direct expression of the unbelievable effort that you've put out and continue to put out, and you're right here putting out effort to try to correct this problem today.
Correct. Correct. Yeah.
Yeah, I just had one other that I thought of. You have foolish and self-conscious. And I guess I wonder whether maybe feeling foolish and self-conscious shows how much you admire others, kind of who have close relationships.
Right. I do. I really do. Yeah.
Again, it's sort of embodying the value that you have. But when you feel foolish and self-conscious, you're saying, I'm not as good as others, which shows that you really admire others.
Correct. Very much
who have this. And that, I think
I envy. I wish I had a tenth of their skill.
Put that down, admire others, but also you're feeling foolish and self-conscious in front of David, Jill, and Fabrice today.
Yeah.
So what is that? In addition to what you pointed out, what does that show? That's really beautiful.
It's really hard for me to see beautiful things. I mean, you're showing that a lot of beauty is in all the others. But, once you say it, I can identify with it, but I really can't come up with that myself.
That's so interesting, yeah.
It seems true when we say you don't think we're BSing you.
No. All of these seem
valid.
Quite valid. I can't.
But it's hard to generate.
If I didn't agree, I would argue with you.
Right.
Well, are you a little? We'll put admiring others as number 12. That I moved too fast before you got it down. But do you feel a bit foolish and self-conscious in front of Fabrice and Jill and David today?
Not in this setting, not in this crowd.
Okay.
No. But in general, yes.
And what does that show about the people? How you feel about those people? You feel embarrassed or foolish or self-conscious or whatever.
The only thing I can think of is something practical, like I want to learn from them, but I cannot think what is good about it.
Oh, well, is wanting to learn a good thing?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
So number 13 would be, I want to learn, but I'm also wondering that if you're yearning to have the respect of those people and to feel close to those people, thinking maybe you're not good enough.
Not really.
Okay. Put that one in the dumpster.
Yeah. I more care about having, happiness of my son.
Yes, right.
That you want.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we may be to the end of our list. We'll probably think of more things in the middle of the night tonight. That's what happens to me. We should have pointed out this and this, but we've got a pretty good list here, and Jill will now show us how to bring this to closure.
Okay, so Mark, actually I'm going to look at your list for a minute. And,
if you can read that bad handwriting,
right.
Sorry.
So we just spent, quite a bit of time now thinking through with you about really all the advantages of your symptoms, about what feeling sad and anxious and guilty and even foolish and self-conscious says about you that's really positive and beautiful and in some ways kind of advantageous. And so I'm wondering, now that we have this kind of long list of advantages and positive value of these symptoms, then kind of you'd have to help me now remind me of why it is that we'd want to work hard to change these, since these are actually, kind of saying something so wonderful about you. Why would you want our help now in getting rid of all these negative thoughts and feelings?
If getting rid of these thoughts and feelings 100% and altogether means that all of these other advantages will go away, no, I wouldn't want these advantages. I think what you could think about, I hardly could think about any of these. But all of them are completely acceptable, completely make sense to me. They resonate. I wouldn't want to give up any of these.
Exactly.
Because they're all a bunch of good things.
Exactly. So not such a good idea to press that magic button.
No, it's not. But on the other hand, I'm going with these hard feelings all day long.
Right, exactly. So you're saying here you're in a little bit of a dilemma where you feel like you've got so many advantages and positive values that you wouldn't want to get rid of, right. And yet at the same time you're suffering so much, right? And day in and day out and for decades. And so I'm wondering if we borrow David's metaphor of the magic button, if instead of offering you a button where you would just annihilate all these thoughts and feelings and the advantages too, could we maybe think instead of having a magic dial where your goal would be not to get rid of them altogether and lose the advantages, but to find kind of like the ideal level of sadness that you'd want to have, the ideal level of guilt and inadequacy and loneliness, where you could hang on to some of these advantages and express these values, and yet at the same time not be suffering as much as you could. Would you be interested in maybe dialing down some of these feelings with us?
Yeah, actually, as we were talking, I was thinking about it, that if it's possible to keep these feelings, negative feelings and hard feelings, but not as hard, I still will have the advantages that you guys could come up with. And again, I must say this is all completely acceptable to me.
Yeah, exactly. So let's start out with the sadness and the unhappiness, and the listeners can't see this, but on the daily mood log there's 3 columns: how strong the emotion is now, what the goal might be for that emotion, and then what the percent is at the end of the session today.
Okay.
And so your goal, you've been feeling 60% sad and unhappy, and then if we could dial that down, what would be an optimal level to be feeling, since sadness shows your love and your yearning and your longing and the loss that you have felt? What would be a healthy amount?
I'm just, of course, coming with a number. I think if I keep 10% of sadness, that is going to be enough.
Yeah, absolutely.
To do away with completely with all of these advantages we talked about.
Absolutely, to express your values, your love of your son, that this matters to you, right?
Right, it matters, yes.
Totally, that makes sense.
It doesn't have to be that high, but it does matter, yes.
Right. You don't have to be suffering 60% sadness, but 10% would be just enough.
Yes, I think so, yes.
Okay.
Now, how anxious would you want to feel? That was 30%.
Probably a 5%. I'm not really sure there is much room for that, or maybe even not anxious at all. I'm not sure.
But put 0 to 5.
Okay, 0 to 5. Okay.
And then the next one here is guilty,
remorseful
and ashamed, and that's 60. What would be appropriate?
How much guilt and remorse would be good to hold on to?
I think with a 5% of that,
5% is enough shame for today?
I think so.
Okay, put down a 5 there. How inadequate do you want to feel?
I don't want to feel inadequate at all.
You want to have this hole in your brain and not feel inadequate?
Well, that's a very good question, yes. Probably a very small degree of that, maybe a 5%.
Yeah, that's plenty of inadequacy.
Feeling lonely.
How lonely, would you like to be feeling today?
Yeah, I like to keep some of that. I would like to keep some of that that would motivate me to develop, to work on developing relationships with the other. I'll just put a 10 there.
Yeah, and just as an aside, we may have 2 goals in our session today. One will be to change these feelings in this way, and then the other to give a new tool for use with the son.
Sure, absolutely, right. The internal and the external solutions, right?
Yeah, right.
Yep.
And now how...
Embarrassed, foolish, self-conscious.
Yeah, that's 60. How?
Probably same level for inadequate. Something like 5 is enough.
Yes, that's good. And then how discouraged and pessimistic. That's 80. That's a big one.
Yeah, I'm not sure how much it helps me. I don't know. Advantages of feeling discouraged, maybe.
Well, one advantage is you don't get your hopes up and then get disappointed. We forgot to add that to the list.
Okay.
Mark wants to make sure you write that down, right? Yeah. So we were saying the advantage of being discouraged is that you don't get your hopes up.
Protects against disappointment. Because you've tried and failed so many times.
That's right.
And also, the discouragement shows a certain realism, which we've already added, but it shows I'm facing the truth about the fact that it's real hard to relate to my son.
Right.
Well, a minute ago, I wanted to completely do away with it, but with this advantage, I would definitely keep something like 5 or 10.
5 to 10, good. And then what's the next one?
Frustrated, defeated.
Yeah, how frustrated do you feel? That's huge, 80% frustrated.
Yeah. And again, it's very hard for me to see advantages, even though we went through all of these.
Well, the frustration shows your determination, that you're still trying. Otherwise, you would have given up on your son.
That's true. Yeah. So
not giving up on my son. That'd be number 15.
Yeah.
Because when you're real frustrated with something, sometimes you just finally give up on it to get rid of the frustration. But you've been sticking with this thing for 40 years.
Oh yeah. Again, something like 10 would be adequate for that.
And then the
anger,
resentful, upset.
No, we didn't explore that one much, but that's only 30. How?
Yeah. I feel angry about why should this happen to me?
Oh, put that down
as
here.
A negative thought.
Let's put it into the statement. That it's unfair that this shouldn't happen to me, it's unfair. That's really what you're saying.
Correct. Yes. I'm a caring person. Why should this happen to me?
It's unfair because I'm a caring person, so it shouldn't happen.
Right. It's kind of I should be able to have a good relationship with myself.
This is also a big part. I would like put it as 75.
75,
right.
And so, what does the anger show about you?
That I have this sense of fairness and justice.
Is that a good thing?
I think so.
And have you had that in your life, in all areas of your life?
Yes.
Add that here. Sense of fairness and justice, because I know outside the context of your relationship with your son, going into the context of politics, you've encountered incredible unfairness and injustice.
Yes.
and been pretty accepting of it also, without beating on your chest too much.
That's
right?
That's right. You're so observant.
Yeah. So how much
of that? Probably another 5 or 10.
5 to 10. Okay. And so now I think we're probably to the end of the third part of TEAM. We've done testing. We've done empathy. Thanks to everyone, especially your beautiful, as usual, and on target comments that were so opening up, and then we've done the A, which is the paradoxical agenda setting to bring the resistance to conscious awareness and to melt it away, and we can comment on it more later on, perhaps. But essentially, what we did here, to put it into a nutshell, is that when people come to a therapist for help, in almost all cases, they're kind of ashamed of their symptoms and struggling to make these things go away. And when you fight against something, it often intensifies. And we've gone in the opposite direction instead, to make you proud of your symptoms and to show that this isn't showing some kind of mental defect the way you've been thinking, but it's showing really beautiful things about you, and that the problem is not that you would have more or less skill in this or that aspect of communication or any aspect of your life, but the fact that you're beating up on yourself, but that all these negative thoughts and feelings are really showing something beautiful, and that once you come to be kind of proud of your symptoms, they lose a lot of their power, and that opens up for the last M equals methods part of the session, where we're going to try to bring about this change that you're looking for.
Yeah, I have just two other thoughts about that. One is that in a way, really, I think, Mark, you'd be the expert here, but I think that what we do in agenda setting with really thinking about how these thoughts and feelings say beautiful things about you is kind of a deep form of empathy and respect as well, right? Rather than saying, hey, Mark, you really better stop beating up on yourself, and here's why and here's how. We're saying, hey, maybe beating up on yourself says something really beautiful about you. Does it feel empathic to you, going through this?
Yes, far 100 times, 1,000 times more than the alternative that you mentioned.
Yeah, kind of throwing methods at you.
Yes, or saying that don't worry about it.
Right.
You know that. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I can't remember what the other point I was going to make was.
I had another one too. I can't remember it either. Well, the one I was going to make is that people often say, how long does therapy take? And it can vary a lot, because some people are far more complex and difficult than others. But for the most part, I've been seeing very, very rapid changes in most of the people that I've been working with. And I think it's because of melting away the resistance the way we just did, because that now we'll all be on the same team when it comes to methods. And then recovery can often be just a stone's throw away, instead of now spending months or years trying to bring about these changes.
Yes.
maybe we can make something happen in 10, 15, 20 minutes or 30 minutes, or we'll see what happens. But in my experience, it's just I experience therapy in a radically different way now because of these new tools, new way of going about therapy.
Yeah.
If I may share something with you in the same line that you're mentioning, this is not the first time that I have talked about my failure in relationship.
Oh.
I spent 3 years on weekly sessions with a really good professional, but conventional psychologist.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, in the talk therapy, and yes, indeed, I did get some results from it, yes. But as you can see, still some hard feelings that are still there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I'm glad you added that.
Okay, so that was the end of the agenda setting part of this live session. So we're going to be moving on in the next podcast to the actual application of the methods, and you're quite a ways into the recovery already. So the methods should be kind of like a walk in the park. But you were telling me something earlier about what therapists have tended to do, which is to find just the right way.
Yeah, therapists are always looking for the holy grail, like one single thing they can learn to do that they can use to treat everyone. And for example, with Freud, it was psychoanalysis on the couch, and this was kind of what everybody needed. And then the behavior therapist tried to say that anxiety should always be treated with exposure. That's the one thing you need to learn how to do. Or now therapists, Carl Rogers was saying it's all empathy is where all the action is. And now some people saying, it's all in the therapeutic relationship. Yeah. And I firmly believe that there is
and there's some people out here, it's all in the motivation.
Exactly, right. And I mean, I have developed or learned, I use about 75 techniques in therapy, and it's different strokes for different folks. There isn't any one thing that's going to cure everyone, but in team therapy, each piece contributes to the recovery as the session evolves. The testing provides us with absolutely crucial information that helps create an effective, high-speed treatment technique. The empathy that Jill and I did at the beginning was important and developed some warmth and some closeness and probably some improvement at that level, but not complete recovery. And then the paradoxical agenda setting we just did, melting away the resistance, not only eliminates the resistance, but also has potent antidepressant and anti-anxiety effects. So you get more improvement there at the paradoxical agenda setting phase. And then next we're going to go into the methods and help Mark crush these negative thoughts like, I'm a failure and there's something defective in my brain. And that's kind of like the frosting on the cake and will be the final push to hopefully a complete elimination of these symptoms. And even at the methods level, I use basically 50 different kind of techniques, externalization of voices, paradoxical double standard technique, identify the distortions, acceptance paradox. So there are many tools that can contribute to this. We make it look really, really simple, but it's a pretty sophisticated process.
Yeah, and as we talk about it in all these podcasts, I think that people will begin to get a good sense of how this works. That's the hope, at least. So stay tuned for the next episode where we'll do the methods part. Thank you very much, David.
Thank you, Fabrice.
This has been another episode of the Feeling Good podcast. For more information, visit Dr. Burns' website at feelinggood.com, where you will find the show notes for this podcast under the blog page, and where you can leave your comments and questions. The website has an abundance of resources for therapists as well as non-therapists, including books, workshops, a list of online training groups around the world, and much more. Theme music is Gypsy Jazz in Paris, 1935, composed and performed by Brett Van Donzel. I am your host, Fabrice Nye, and I invite you to join us next time for another episode of the Feeling Good podcast.